Hello, my name is Fabrizio Branca, and in this short video, I want to show you what's new in AU Scheduler. So for those who don't know what AU Scheduler is, it is a Magento module that sits on top of Magento's native cron functionality that lets you visualize the different tasks that are happening in the background and gives you some control over it. And it's a pretty widespread module. I'm very flattered. There's not a single week where AU Scheduler isn't mentioned in a tweet, in a blog post, or on Stack Exchange or somewhere, and people keep telling me they like it. At the same time, there's not a single week where people don't contact me telling me that there's something wrong because the heartbeat task isn't found, or that they uninstall the module and then cron crashes because it's saying that the configuration code is not found. And so I decided to go back and make it a lot easier to use AU Scheduler, try to account for these problems, and also add a ton of features. I actually started doing that a while ago and then was sitting there in a separate branch for a very long time, and other things got more important. And now 2 weeks ago, I decided, okay, now we have to wrap this up and we have to get this out. So we spent a lot of time on that. And actually last week, Lee SafeWrite helped a lot, refactoring things, adding new features. And now we decided to publish this new version 1.0.0. So it's a major release. A lot of things have changed behind the scenes, and a lot of new features were added. Focus was on extending the functionality, on making one of the biggest features is that now you can edit and create new crons in the backend. And another main focus was to help you set up cron correctly, to let you know if something is wrong, and to give you concrete instructions on how to do that, because that seemed to be the number one confusion with AU Scheduler and Magento cron in general. So also there has been a lot of feedback from different community members. Matthias Zeiss have helped testing a little bit here and gave some good feedback. And there were a couple of bug fixes and a pull request from other members. I'm very happy for that. So keep them coming. Okay, so I'll show you now very quickly how to install that. So first of all, you'll find AU Scheduler on GitHub, GitHub AU people, AU Scheduler. So that's another source of confusion. There have been multiple versions on my private GitHub account, and then in the meantime, AUE was called AU Media. So it's AU people, AU Scheduler, where you always find the latest version. It is on Magento Connect, and I will go back and actually update Magento Connect with the latest version at some point, but you can assume that on GitHub you will always find the latest version, and Magento Connect will only be updated from time to time. So yeah, AU people, AU Scheduler, and one of the new things is you'll find some documentation here. So there's actually a lot of a big outline. To be honest, a lot of that stuff isn't written yet and will be added from time to time. But one of the things that is already there is some information on how to install that, and that's also linking to a blog post I wrote a while ago, how to install a Magento module. So AU Scheduler comes with a Composer JSON file, and here's a snippet that you need to install Composer. So it's compatible with the Hackathon Composer installer, but as you might know, I prefer our AU People Composer installer, which is a lot simpler. So if you want to use that, just use this snippet. So I'll copy that, and yeah. So this is a simple Magento installation that that I installed actually in my previous screencast. You can check that out on YouTube. And I have some tools here. I have Composer, Modman, and 98-bit and PHP unit. And these are simply the scripts and the files copied to the folder. And now I will create a Composer JSON file, and I'll paste that stuff here. So as of now, AU Scheduler 1.0.0 release candidate 3 is out. I want to give it like a week of testing in our reprojects, and of course, any feedback from you is welcome. And as soon as I feel comfortable that everything works as promised, I will make that the version 1.0.1 probably. And yeah, so by the time you're watching this video, probably the final version will be out. The planned date is the end of this week, which is May 15th or so. Okay, let's start that, and now simply run composer for install, and it will install both the AOE Composer installer, which acts as a replacement as for the Hackathon installer, and the AOE scheduler. If you plan on contributing to the AOE scheduler module, you probably might want to add --prefer-source to the composer for a command, so that it will download a version that includes the .git folder. Now it will just download the tar.gc file from GitHub instead. Okay, here we go. AOE People Composer installers and AOE Scaler was installed. It was installed in the .modman folder, and since our setup .modman lives next to htdocs instead of inside of htdocs, we still need to create a file called base_dir, which will let modman know where our web root is. So now we'll simply call modman deploy all, and it will install AOE scheduler. So let's flush the caches, and now let's check out our demo instance. Okay, so now here you can see the scheduler module, and it comes with four admin interfaces. The one that's new is job configuration, and no, the one that's new is instructions, sorry. And this will actually, first of all, let you know that no heartbeat tasks are found. Of course, I just installed that, so cron might not have picked up the cron yet. But yeah, so this is showing you how to install that, and you have different options here that help you to run that. So for example, we are introducing a new script called scheduler_cron, and the documentation you'll find out, well, this is a better way. Then you can choose to run every minute or every 5 minutes. It's recommended to check for the maintenance mode, but you can skip that. And then you can separate that into always and default tasks. Here's an example on how to configure it using multiple cron groups. And another thing we introduced is the watchdog, which one of the features of AOE Scheduler is process management. So we'll actually look at all the running schedules and check if they're alive. And you can kill them. And in order to make that happen, you might want to use that watchdog task. And yeah, so let's go with a simple setup like this one, and configure cron. So okay. So now in a minute from now, it should start picking it up and generate a schedule and start processing them. So in the meantime, I'll show you the job configuration. So this is what already has been there, but now there are some new features. First of all, you'll see there's a type here. So in previous versions, a cron task could only be defined in XML. But Action Magento behind the scenes had the feature that a cron could also be defined in the database, and that's actually in core config data in the system configuration, where the different fields were split out into different configuration options, and some of the modules out there actually use that. And that's also why when uninstalling those modules, these entries were still there, and cron tried to pick them up and execute them. And of course, the class that this configuration was referring to didn't exist anymore, and that led to problems. So now not only do we account for these problems and skip them and not have cron crash, but actually there is now an interface for that. So you can actually go and edit any task here. So you can give it a name and short description and description. That was a feature that Matthias Zeiss added. And so you can do everything here without actually touching any XML. You can change the run model to anything different. You can disable and enable crons, and that has been there before, but one thing changed here. While before, this flag has been saved in a comma-separated list in system configuration, now that's actually part of this database overlay. There is data migration script that will take care of that, but yeah, better double check to make sure that all the tasks you have disabled are still disabled after updating to version 1. Then you can override the cron expression here, and it actually will also make sure that this is valid cron expression, just some validation. A new feature is parameters. So you can do whatever you want here. The string will be passed as is to your cron implementation as a parameter. So from there, you'll pick it up. So you're free to use JSON here or a simple string or XML. It's totally up to you to parse that data that you insert here. And then one of the features that was very confusing is using cron groups. So in the earlier versions of AOScaler, you could define environment variables with a whitelist and a blacklist before actually calling cron. And AOScaler would pick that up and only process the cron tasks that match this whitelist or blacklist. Now we totally refactor that, and that's actually warning if you were using that before. This is not supported anymore, so you have to go back and change the groups to this pattern. If you update AOScaler and not do that, simply everything will always be executed. So go back and add groups here, so you can name any groups, and then later when calling cron, you can specify the groups cleanly as a parameter. That's also why we had to introduce the new script called scheduler_cron.sh as an alternative to cron.sh that allows doing that cleanly. So yeah, with that in place, we can save that, and now you can actually see this task that we just changed has a cron expression here, and now it switched to db_xml. So this shows you that it was an XML task before, but now there is a database overlay. So this task has been edited, and everything you edited here has a higher priority than the stuff that was in the database. You can also just create a new job from scratch, task job, and so there doesn't have to be a database, an XML file for that. So you can save that, and actually it does some validation here, and will let you know that the callback is invalid. So do a valid callback, and let's make it fail here to show you that there's a validation in place, invalid cron expression. So let's say this is an always task, and let's save it. So now you can see this task we just added is a pure database task. Here it is. Test job, always DB. And of course, we can go back and delete that. Okay, so this is definitely one of the most exciting features, including the instructions here. And yeah, so let's quickly check out the changelog, and let's walk you through that. So yeah, in case you've been using the experimental task record branch, please note that every database overlay records you have added there are not automatically converted into the new format. So I don't think there are many people who actually use it, but if you do, please go back and make sure all your overlays are transferred. We talked about the cron management, the cron group that's now different, and disabling jobs is now handled in a different way. And yeah, some of the new features are, as I mentioned before, a lot of code has changed. Actually, we created a completely new domain model. Um, cron, jobs, tasks, schedules, everything is cleanly defined, and there's like a nice process manager, a schedule manager. Mage Cron was doing that in a very like messed up way, and AScaler tries to clean this up a lot. We talked about the database overlays. I briefly mentioned the process management, so you actually can go back and check if a task is actually still running. You can use that for to integrate that into your continuous integration pipeline. Actually, one of the things that I've added here are some cookbooks, some recipes here. And here's an interesting one about how to integrate cron into your deployment process, basically giving you the steps that allow you to make sure that no cron from a previous build is still running while you're trying to deploy. So with the new features, you can actually disable cron globally, and then you can flush all the schedules. You can actively wait to give the actively currently the current schedules time to finish, and if after like a minute they still aren't finished, you can kill them. This is a feature of the new process management, and then you deploy, and then you can enable cron again. This allows you to do a nicer and cleaner deployment process. And I've added another recipe here that might be worth checking out. While some crons actually define an explicit schedule like run every minute, that basically should probably more be an always task, because if you have cron configured to only run every 5 minutes, the task will be piling up, and then like 4 out of 5 tasks will actually be skipped. And in order to clean everything up, you can of course go back and change this from star 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 to always. Of course, one feature that has been there before, you can disable unused jobs. And one of the new features is you can define a number of tasks to keep in the timeline view. So if you have like a task that runs every minute and you decide to keep a day worth of schedules, of course, you will have a lot of green bars there, hopefully. But that doesn't provide too much information. So with this feature, you can basically make sure that only the last 20 are kept, and this will help you keep your timeline clean and make the loading of the timeline view a lot faster. So yeah, and one of the new things is I've added some tests. So this is integrated into Travis CI now, and Travis CI is doing some PHP unit tests. These are not true unit tests at this point. These are more integration tests. So what I'm actually doing is I'm creating a schedule, and then I'll trigger cron.php, cron.sh, and this new schedule underscore cron.sh to make sure that actually everything works as expected. So it's not on a PHP class level, but it's like more an integration level. And I'm testing versions 1.9, 1.8, 1.7, community edition, and on our private Jenkins server, I'm also testing the recent enterprise edition. So as of now, you can see it's compatible with the most recent community editions and also enterprise editions, and PHP 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5. Okay, so let's go back to the changelog. And yeah, Mike added a new feature, a message buffer. So that's configurable. It's disabled by default, but you can enable that, and everything inside your task implementation that will be echoed will be captured and actually goes into your messages. So while there is a clean way of doing that by interacting with the schedule object and actually setting messages there for legacy tasks, or also if you're too lazy to do that this way. You can just echo stuff or var dump stuff or print stuff, and it will capture everything and convert it into a message. And yeah, there have been a couple of other bug fixes and contributions. To see a full list of all the contributors, please check out the contributors list here. That shows everything. So far, thanks to everybody giving feedback, doing pull requests, and yeah. Okay, that's it so far. Thank you very much for listening. Feel free to test AScaler and let me know if any problems you're facing or any comments. Everything is very welcome. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.